few seconds. Alright, we are live, we are here, and we are going to look at some more cool replays today. Welcome to everyone on the stream, hello to everyone on the VODs, all of that fun stuff. We're waiting for Omerta at the moment. I have no idea where he is. He was here earlier before, but we're just going to start anyway, because, you know, that's what you get. I mean, it's just scumbag Omerta, right? I mean, yeah. That guy. Yeah, so this is late night IMBA discussions. We're going to be talking about some replays. Particularly tonight, we're going to be having a look at some replays that were sent through from Quantic TheOgnis. Not many people probably have heard of TheOgnis before, but make sure you do. Jump on Twitter. He's on Quantic TheOgnis is his Twitter account. He's been doing some crazy stuff in Korea, which we'll see today. And of course, joining me, well, the one person joining me at the moment is our resident Terran player, is Mr. MLG Wiggin. What's up?
Not much, man. I'm really excited to see these replays, actually.
Yeah, these are pretty much as fresh as they come. These are literally like minutes old. This first replay we're going to watch, guys, is from the Korean server between NEST, who's going to be starting down here. We'll start it in just a second, against the TheOgnis on Entomb Valley. This is actually like about 20 minutes old, and the theme for tonight is going to be Mech in TvZ. So we're going to be having a look, and obviously we'll get Wiggin's impressions, his own impressions of Mech in TvZ. And if Omerta arrives, can you make sure you keep an eye on Skype, because I can't have it up just at the moment.
I will do that.
Yeah, just let me know if I need to add it to the call. And yeah, so we'll just go over these. We got around about 5 replays. I don't know if we've got time for all of them, but we'll try and do our best. All right, let's get started. You ready to roll?
I'm ready.
On 3, 1, 2, 3.
All right.
Yeah. So.
I've been talking with TheOgnis a little bit lately, and he's been telling me how he has been working on his Mech TvZ, and I'm really excited to see what sort of little subtle variations of the standard builds that he does in order to make sure that Mech is safe in this matchup. Because for a long time, Mech was something that people really wanted to do, but it's kind of weirdly vulnerable to aggression. Like a really fast roach rush, things like that, can do a lot of damage. It's kind of why going Reactor Hellion fell a little bit out of popularity.
Yeah.
Because your transition after Reactor Hellion when you're meching is usually right when you're going to get hurt, and that's right when a roach, like sort of like early roach time would hit. So he's been telling me he's got a build that's very safe against that kind of pressure. So I'm really excited to see what he's got.
Yeah, it'd be really good to see. Like I actually originally when StarCraft 2 first came out, I actually played Terran back then, and I was the I was the Australian StarCraft 2 in the first few weeks version of Goody. Effectively, I just mech'd every single time, just because I really liked the way it worked especially in StarCraft 1. Like even in StarCraft 1, I actually played Protoss at the time, but I just thought it was really cool, and I thought that playing like a mech style of Terran in StarCraft 2 would kind of suit me a little bit better than Protoss. Obviously that didn't work out. But yeah, so there's all sorts of things. Like I've actually done some replays on my channel looking at TVP mech, which is, you seem to play it a little bit differently. I think, I don't know, you can clarify, but you need to be a little bit more harassy in TVP, just purely because you don't want the Protoss to get the economy up, to get the tech, of course, that just will destroy mech, because there's all sorts of things that will destroy mech in TVP. So
yeah, if you really want to do a TVP mech build, you're kind of stuck all leaning on 2 bases, to be perfectly honest. Late game, it's just so easy to abuse the immobility of a meching player as a Protoss, between Blink Stalkers, just warping in things, speed prisms, and so not only are you kind of in a situation where you can have your mobility abused, but in a straight up fight you just generally lose to, because Immortals are just so damn good against tanks.
Yep.
And the other thing that's a little different about Mech against Protoss is when you're playing against Protoss, you sort of weirdly need to have a ton of Hellions. Like, you have to have that buffer against Zealots and Immortals for your tanks, so you generally have a much smaller tank count and a much higher Hellion count against Protoss than you would against anyone else. Like, for example, TVT Mech, you're almost all tanks after the mid game.
Yeah.
It's almost 100% tanks, and then, you know, whatever you need to support Ravens, Vikings, Banshees, things like that. So, but in this matchup, it's a
little bit
we already
different,
have something
yeah.
kind of interesting. I think he went, I wasn't paying too much attention, but I think he went for a 1 Rax expand into double gas.
Yep, it was. It was exactly that. So it's a little bit more like a, I suppose that's a little bit more like a TVP sort of expand there in a way. But yeah.
Yeah, that's a very common opening in TVP, and it's a little bit less so in this matchup, because generally you want to have those early reactor Hellions to deny creep and just give you sort of a little bit of free scouting as a Terran player.
Yep.
But now he's moving out here with these first 5 Marines, and I kind of like this. You have to be able to apply some kind of pressure, force just some sort of response out of a Zerg player, because if you can just sit there and drone, that is just all the bad news in the world.
This is actually when I
And
tuned into this match on his stream.
Yeah. This is a very weird timing too. This is just not normally when you'd see Marines come across the field, so it looks like it's catching Nesty a little bit off guard, actually.
Yeah, he had to make a bunch of lings there, and he almost he lost I think a couple of the drones. Let's have a quick look. Oh no, just nope, not even any. Fair enough. Good old Nesty, impossible to kill. Yeah.
Did force a lot of lings though, and that's important. That's what you want to do. And
It's effectively some lost drones.
Yeah, and he was able to deny creep a little bit too. Like, Nesty wasn't able to put the creep out as quickly as he wanted early on, just because of the Marine presence. And Nesty going for a very fast third. It's just something Zergs are doing more and more these days. They've kind of figured out that they can really just protect it against just about anything. So I think that's a pretty solid decision. There's really not a lot you can do against it as a Terran player. So, I mean, why not, kind of thing.
Yeah, and he's got the double gas in the main. We got a Roach Warren, which has just popped up, and just clearing out the rocks as well. I think it's obviously a massive thing, especially in this matchup, just to make sure you get rid of those rocks that cover the third base on your tomb. Otherwise, you can be in a lot of trouble.
I really like the way this has sort of worked out for DUCKVILLELOL. It's let his build, going for the 1 Rax expand into double gas, has let him get a really fast starport, and that'll let him do 2 things going for these Banshees. It'll let him apply a little bit of pressure with the Banshees, and it'll let him be safe against a small Roach pressure. So I think it's one of those cool things that meching players in this matchup have been doing, is just kind of going for these Banshees.
Is this?
And you'll notice that he's targeting the Queens when he's pressuring with these Hellions too.
Yeah.
A subtle thing that's very important if you're ever going to try to do any damage with Banshees.
Yeah. Is this that same kind of style that 4GG was doing? Like, but except he did it off one base?
Yeah, 4GG would go for the Banshees on one base for the most part. Which is, it's one way you can do it, and it's a way a lot of people were trying it. And if it's not scouted, the Banshees can do a ton of damage. But Zerg players have kind of adjusted to it very quickly, and if you didn't do any damage with that kind of style, you were really in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of liking this a lot more, because DUCKVILLELOL hasn't had to do any damage, sort of. Even though Nesty got that fast third up, of course now he's getting kills with these Banshees, which is very nice.
And
even though he was able to
coming
get
through.
the fast third up, that's very good movement. And
Wow. It was
very good decision to just take the opportunity with Nesty's Roaches being out of position.
Yeah, with the Roaches out of position, not to mention the Queen's being forced back by the Banshee as well, the Cloak Banshee, and they had no way to stop that. So, that was really nice.
Yeah, and this is when this kind of pressure can be really powerful, as it starts to sort of snowball out of control for the Zerg player. And he has these Banshees constantly just pestering.
He just looks like he's been practicing level 27 of StarCraft Master.
And I still haven't played that, actually.
Don't.
Don't?
No.
I've seen a lot of posts on Reddit complaining about it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's all good fun. It's just like it's not for me because I get frustrated. It's really funny. I get frustrated about those sorts of challenge things where I know that they have there's a way to beat them. I just can't figure it out, and that frustrates me more than playing on ladder and like losing to someone.
Right. Now, if you want to see the story of this game so far, go ahead and open up the units killed tab, and just look at all the damage DheOgnis has been able to do for really cheap and without committing to too much. Like, sure, he got cloaked banshees, but that lets him survive against the pressure as well as applied of his own. He's only built 2 of them, and sure, he's gotten a lot of Hellions, but that's just something you want to get anyway.
Yeah.
So he's
You're gonna need them eventually.
losing
Anyway.
losing a banshee there a little sloppily there, but that's okay.
Yeah. I saw him, he actually he sort of sacrificed a Banshee to get one of the queens that was really low. Do you reckon that's something that, do you reckon that's a fair trade? Like, if the Banshee has gotten kills before that, let's say it's got, like, 2 or 3 drone kills, and then there's a queen on 10 HP, do you sacrifice and go for that?
I think that's a fair trade because banshees are one of those things that very rapidly run out of use against a Zerg player. Basically, as soon as he gets the Spire, those banshees are just done for.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, go for it. If you think you can trade it down for something useful like that, denying more larvae, yeah, why not?
Yep.
So now DheOgnis is in really good shape. He's up supply on Zerg, which almost never happens. Even bases. He's got his full tech tree going. He's safe because he's already producing Thors. Let's see what kind of upgrades he's working on right here.
+1 to the vehicle
no
weapons.
upgrades yet, but it's getting +1.
Yep.
That's sort of an interesting decision as to whether or not you go for weapons or for armor. And I think generally, actually, I'm really not sure what's better. I think weapons is better most of the time, unless you're going for, like, you're intending to concentrate on a really high Thor count, then you can go for armor.
Isn't it? Yeah, isn't it sort of a little bit more dependent on what they're trying to counter with? Like if they go for something, like if they're going for some sort of weird mix, like using Lings or something like that does a faster amount of damage, it's better to get the armor?
Yeah, things that
Something
do...
like that.
Well, I think it, as a meching player, it more depends on what you're trying to do. And, if you're gonna be basically just continually building Thors, then I think armor might be a better decision.
Yep.
Just because you want those Thors to be alive as long as possible.
Yep.
But, I don't know, TvZ is a little bit weird when it comes to making your composition, because you really don't want to make Thors unless you have to. But you have to have the right amount of Thors or you just lose to these.
Yeah.
So you have to be very careful as to what you build. And then, of course, if you don't have enough tanks, you just die to roaches, so on and so forth. So you have to be very careful. And I guess weapons upgrades is nice because it just covers everything. You can't go wrong getting weapons.
Speaking of which, we got the mutas just flying through the middle. They haven't actually really done that much. As I said, the Thor's already out by the time that the mutas were coming along, which is just a huge thing in this matchup. Not to mention, I just noticed just at the third base, he's got 5 turrets there just in case as well. So it's not as if he's going to be completely naked if the Thors leave the base as well. So
yeah, you basically can't spend too much money on turrets when you're in this kind of situation, because eventually you're going to need to be able to apply pressure. Like, notice what Nesty's done here is as soon as his mutas were able to begin harassing, even though they haven't really done anything yet, he immediately took 2 extra bases.
Yep.
So, in response, Ognis is going to want to be able to apply, either just take a ton more bases, which he's kind of doing. He just finished another command center, he's got 2 more building, or apply pressure. And when you're playing from a position ahead like he was, you just don't want to die to something dumb, like losing a bunch of SCVs to mutas that you just didn't build enough turrets for, and things like that. I really like that he's going for he's got a Raven out, and I hope he builds more, because against a high muta count, Ravens are just so nice. That PDD is actually so useful, and even if he ends up not building too many mutas, you can use those auto turrets sort of as like Terran force fields.
Yep.
In fights, and it's actually just way more effective than you might imagine. And another thing he's doing that a lot of mech players haven't been doing yet, but is absolutely essential and just makes a world of difference, is he's brought seven SCVs down. Bringing a handful of SCVs to all your pushes, just like the amount of survive. It's like going bio and not having medevacs, not bringing SCVs to a mech push.
Yep. Wow, just
Look
drops a
at me
mule.
just completely
Drops a mule on Nesty as well. We saw
random mules on this.
yeah, we saw the Thors just blocking out the tanks as well, which I like the positioning of that, just sort of sitting at the front, making sure that if anything soaks up damage, it's the Thors, because of course we got the with the roaches out, you know, the tanks are going to do a whole heap of damage to them if they get some time to shoot at them. So it's nice to have the Thors in the front, and there is GG.
And another thing to note that he did during this fight that's a very very important if you're going mech is he reinforced his push with Hellions. Whenever you're pushing with mech and you feel the need to reinforce, you're never going to really be able to reinforce with tanks quickly. So you want to have those reactor factories, or even not pumping Hellions very quickly, and that's the only way you'll actually be able to get reinforcements during time, because tanks are 45 seconds to build, Thors are 60, Hellions you can get to out in 30. They'll be across the map. So always reinforcing Hellions if you're doing a push.
Yep. Not to mention, yeah, as you said, the reactor helps out too. Despite the fact that they're not going to do massive amounts of damage, then, you know, they're going to be good to have. So that was Quantic TheOgnis playing against Nesty, which is just off the stream. That was really good. So that's a bit of mech with a different opening. We obviously saw he went for the basic sort of outline of that was a 1 Rax CC into some marine pressure. I think it was like 5 or 6 marines that went down to try and pressure at a little bit of an odd time, and then into some Hellions, and then into a cloaked Banshee. It's just a lot of like sort of staged based pressure where you've got, you know, stage 1 with the marines, try and get a couple of drone kills, get a queen if you can, force some lings, and then the Hellions come out to obviously deny the lings if they came out. If the Zerg overproduced lings, you can take them out with the Hellions. And then the Banshees come along, which is the next stage. Like, what do you get to counter the Hellions? You get either some spine crawlers or more queens, or roaches. And what counters roaches is easily the Banshees. So it's a really nice. I like the stages in that just to open up, as compared to like you were saying at the start when we went into that. Normally, you know, you can't really do a Hellion based, like a straight Hellion sort of thing. Like normally when people generally mech, you'll see just a standard reactor Hellion opening, try and do some pressure with the Hellions, but you can't really do that because at that sort of 8, 9, 10 minute mark is when roaches can come up, and you know, if you've only got 1 or 2 tanks out, they're not going to be able to do much against that sort of timing attack. So,
well, the really dangerous roach push is actually even a little bit sooner than that, like around 5 roaches, even a couple minutes before that. That's the one that'll really kill you, because that'll kill you before you can even get a tank out, or you'll barely be getting a tank out in time. And that's the one that dissuades a lot of mech users.
Yep.
And just to add a couple things to what you were saying, for people that were thinking of copying this kind of build, it's a no gas expand off 1 barracks into double gas, and then you go up to the reactor at Hellions, and then to the starport Banshees.
Yep.
And one more thing we didn't really talk a lot about, but the timing of TheOgnis' push was not coincidental. He scanned the main, saw the hive on the way, and that's when he went. And that's something that you should always consider, especially as a meching player, is once hive comes out, brood lords are a pain in the dick to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so you want to hit that Zerg at that vulnerable time right before he gets his hive tech out. So, and this was just like very straightforward. He did exactly what he needed to do by the book. Beat one of the best Zerg players in the world doing it, man.
There you go. You can do it. As I said before, when I was watching ST stream, and he was like, he seems to miss a lot of queen injects. So I'm like, are you serious? And it was just a bit of like from 300, even a God King can bleed. So it's good to know. The next game, if you want to just grab that one, I'll introduce it. Is going to be between TSL Hyun, who's of course a former Brood War pro gamer. He was in NBC Game Hero, one of the teams which unfortunately had to close down when NBC also closed down. and he wasn't like a massive, awesomely good player in Brood War, but he was definitely one of the better level players. So he did some good things. But yeah, have you got this all good?
I'm good.
You good? All right. Is that scumbag or murderer around?
Doesn't look like it.
What a scumbag!
Yeah.
Hang on. Can you turn your mic up a bit?
I can talk a little louder. I don't think I can actually turn my mic up without messing with all kinds of things.
Hang on, I'll try and turn you up. Nope, I can't. Damn it.
Okay, hold on. Maybe I can figure out where I can turn my mic up real quick. In the meantime, if anyone has any questions in the chat, feel free to throw them at us. Let's see, properties.
It should be in the
Okay, how's that?
It sounds a little bit better to me.
Alrighty.
Alright, we'll just go with that. I might turn my
This is all your fault somehow. That's what we're gonna go with.
Look, it's all Sundance's fault, but I get it.
Okay.
Alright.
Alright, well I'm ready, so on your mark.
Okay, on 3.
You are ready.
1, 2, 3.
Alright, so taking a look at this map.
Cloud Kingdom. Cloud City.
Kingdom.
The search for Lando Calrissian.
I like this map actually a lot for Mech. Pretty defensible 3 bases with only 2 major ways to get in, and that's pretty important. You almost must have 3 bases to effectively mech late game, mid game against a Zerg player, and it can be pretty map dependent as to whether or not you can hold that. So this is one of these maps that I would definitely consider meching on. Like Shakura's Plateau is another great example of meching because there's only so many places a Zerg can attack in.
Yeah, I think generally this is pretty an even map. Although I think it can be a little bit Protoss favored in some respects for PvZ in particular. Other than that, I think it's pretty balanced. Same sort of reasons basically, just because it's easy to get the third, and you can wall it up a little bit and just make it hard for a Zerg to attack into. But that's just my personal opinion.
Anything is Protoss favored in PvZ?
Oh, that's right. I forgot. That's how it works in StarCraft 2. But yeah, so
I like this with the forward barracks. If he's doing the same build and so if you're doing a 1-rack supply, you're sort of looking, or 1-rack supply, 1-racks expand, you're sort of looking for cheap ways to apply pressure.
Yep.
Without doing anything extra with your build. And if you know you're not going to need the Marines later, why not just sort of proxy this racks out somewhere, get that pressure going a little bit earlier, maybe even fill a couple SCVs and do sort of a quasi bunker rush. That's something a lot of people like to do. And to be perfectly honest, if you're 1-racks expanding or you're doing any kind of expansion build as a Terran player, you should be looking to figure out a way to do some damage with those first couple of Marines.
Yep. So Hyun
Another cool thing you can do.
just gone. Sorry, he's just gone. Was that 14, 15, or I didn't actually see?
I did not see. It looks like I'm actually not sure.
No, it's all good. But he is getting an expansion, and we've got gas done, so he should be able to grab the Ling speed in just a second.
Indy spotted that barracks placement, which is not actually a massive deal once the barracks has already been made. Another cool thing you can do with these sort of proxy racks is, if you're really familiar with the map, is you can use it to catch overlords in their scouting pattern. Like, if you notice this bottom right overlord from Hyun was moving towards that barracks, but had to sort of run south, and he's a little bit lucky that TheOgnis didn't didn't recognize that scouting pattern, because he would have gotten a free overload pretty early, and that's basically enough damage that you need to do early to a Zerg player. So one thing to think about if you're going for this kind of little proxy racks fun at the beginning of the game is, try to learn your Overlord scouting gosh, I can't speak.
Overlord scouting
patterns, and try to cut them off and get some free Overlords.
We got Overlord scouting pancakes here. That's how it is.
Yeah, find your Overlord scouting pancakes.
Alright, so the command center is completed down at the NAT. We've got a factory on the way. A reactor also coming through, so still just proceeding along as per the previous game, although of course a little bit different in that there has been no pressure on the natural at all, so Hyun has been free to get up to 27 drones, 28 now, so he's sort of just proceeding as you would like to.
Yeah, and it's pretty similar to what happened in the first game. The only difference is Nesty did not build that spine crawler.
Yep.
And was actually a little bit ahead of Hyun in economy at this point. So it's sort of a wash, and I'm guessing DheOgnis feels like his build is good enough that he doesn't really need to apply too much pressure to a two-basing Zerg.
Yeah.
So, and that's sort of fair. You don't. It's always nice to be able to apply that really early pressure, but Zerg players don't really nobody's dying to it anymore unless you're making a horrible mistake. So. And it looks like the same build pretty much exactly from DheOgnis. Again, that one racks expand, double gas, reactor Hellions, and a very quick starport. I wonder if he ever does any variations with a medevac. That could be a cool thing you could do in this kind of thing. It's just a very quick Hellion drop. Catch the Zerg off guard.
Is that
I do like this.
Without Blue Flame, is that still worth it if you can catch some drones?
Yeah, I mean it's always worth it if you can catch some drones. It's just I suspect the reason he's always going for this Banshee is because it's safe against Roach.
Yep.
That would be my guess. And if you're going for a Hellion into quick medevac, if he ever builds a Roach ever, you're basically in all kinds of trouble.
Yep. Unless you do level 30 of StarCraft Master and you can pick all the units up and put them back up and all that. It's crazy. Alright, so a couple of spine crawlers obviously to help out with defense as the Queen just poking around. Her creep tumor babies are going to be roasted up probably pretty soon. Have we got a scan prepared for that? No, we don't. No scan, so the creep tumors will stay alive for now.
And one thing you can notice that's already different from the last game is because he didn't send those early Marines, Hyun's been able to get creep out a lot further, and it makes these Hellions a lot less effective at the beginning of the game.
And speaking of which, here comes that first Banshee cloak is complete, so if he wants to, he can cloak that. And there he goes, so he's going to take out this first Queen, that's going to be no trouble at all. Got that moving shot, there it is, bam. And...
You're a little bit ahead of me.
Oh, okay.
Speeding up real quick.
Alright, so he's into the Nat, getting some damage done. So this is, yeah, this is quite nice. He sent back the second Banshee. Not sure about that.
I wonder if that
How would
was
he do
just
that?
misclick.
Yeah.
Oh,
Could be.
see, it's rallied to follow on his Hellions.
Oh,
So
okay,
that's
right.
what happened there. And yeah, even he's gotten 7 kills with this Banshee already. He's forced an Overseer. He's just sort of wasting a lot of Hyun's time and bothering him a lot, and Hyun hasn't even gotten a third down, which is pretty big in this kind of situation. Anytime you can deny that third from the Zerg player as long as possible, that is pretty massive. Because now, sure, Hyun's gone all the way up to 72 drones, but they're wasted. It's wasted resources at this point because he's already saturated.
It's not efficient mining. It's no good.
Right.
And an Overseer finally flying in from Hyun. He's going to see that there are 3 factories up, 2 with Tech Labs and 1 with the reactor, of course. Blue Flame on the way. Siege mode not started just yet. I think that comes next.
I think that's a decision you can make based on what you scout with these Banshees, and he's seen that he's going for a Ling Infester style,
Yep.
or at least Ling into fast, or maybe like Ling's into fast hive, like Stefano style. So he knows he doesn't really need that siege immediately. Just going for the more efficient Hellions with Blue Flame. And he's got his third up before the Zerg player, and that is actually just the best feeling in the world.
Some Hellions trying to take out a Spine Crawler there, not really working too well. But they've got Blue Flame now, so they should be able to get some more damage done. Don't know how long that hatch is going to stay up.
Yeah, he might actually get this thing.
Because
He's going to have to commit those Lings to stopping it.
Yeah.
Oh, here they come.
Just sort of poking around the side, trying to posture for position at the moment. And the Queen also in trouble. Oh, he's not going to be able to get that. Roach is finally out. Should be able to deal with that for the most part. So, yeah, as you said, Hyun up to 68 drones, which is kind of a little bit behind where you would normally expect someone to be at this stage of the game, especially considering his opponent is sitting at 68 as well. So, that's quite awesome for DUCKVILLELOL.
You can numerically match the Zerg player in economy. You're actually ahead as a Terran player. Like, same bases, same worker counts, you're in great shape. And one just interesting thing to note is the first four units out of the Tech Lab factories for the DUCKVILLELOL both games has been Thors. And the reason you do that is because at that time, that's when mutas would be popping out. And you basically need, like, 2 is getting greedy, 4 is basically safe against any number of mutas that could possibly be out at this point. The only thing you have to be careful about is if the Zerg player is going for like a heavy Roach mid game, that the lack of tanks can come back to bite you. But because of the Hellion and Banshee presence on the map, he's been able to tell that that's just not occurring, and has been safe to get those Thors out. Ooh, good fungals down on these Banshees, but I don't think, it's not going to be enough to kill them.
Doesn't help.
And there's the Vespers.
Festatarians to save the day? Just. So.
Barely enough energy for that, too.
Yeah.
Oh, is the Banshee going to get away? Yeah, it is. Nice. Pro Banshee, always getting away. Like 5 health or less. The one nice thing that Banshees can do for you, by the way, if you're meching against a player going for Infestors can be really dangerous against a mech army. Fungals are okay, but what's really dangerous is the infested Terrans breaking up siege lines. A couple Banshees to just snipe Infestors and just force them to use their energy early on can be pretty super useful, actually.
So there's a few less tanks in this, but I think a lot more Hellions than there were in the previous game, and it looks as if he's going to try and push in a little bit late on the siege, but looks as if it's hard to tell which way this is going to go, but I think the Roaches are going to clean up, maybe even. Yeah.
This is the danger of going for too many Thors against somebody who's not building.
Yeah.
Not building a lot of mutas. Is you just don't have the ground presence to defeat that kind of army. And weirdly enough, Banelings kind of counter Thors if they're not spread. That's something Nesty has done a couple of times.
Yeah.
So just slam enough Banelings into Thors and it'll actually just wipe out a mech army.
I remember that game on Belshire when he did that. Yeah. It was like, it's like Nesty, there's like 10 Thors, you can't do that. No, I'm gonna do it anyway, and they just kills them all. It was ridiculous.
So actually, in this kind of situation, DUCKVILLELOL has to be feeling the pressure a little bit.
Yep.
Once you lose that mech army you're in a pretty vulnerable position for a little while. It takes a really long time to rebuild a mech army. And Hyun's got an opportunity to just do basically whatever he wants around the map. And apparently what he wants is to throw away all his Lings and Infestors.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good strategy. You can throw all the units away, run them into a bunch of tanks, and a couple of Banshees will hang out the side, and then just, take all the units and just destroy everything. He has tried to expand behind this, obviously getting that 4th was up before, also getting a 5th across to the side as well. Yeah, so he's sort of Ognis has sort of brought it back a little bit there, not even by his own means, but his production is also quite huge as well. We got double Hellions coming out. We've got around about 4 tanks at a time, which is just huge. Not to mention the Banshees. He hasn't actually stopped with the Banshees at all, which I really like. It's not often that you get continual production of Banshees. Like a lot of the time, people will grab, you grab an amount at the start of the game, and then some later on if you need them as a utility unit. But continual Banshee production is something you don't often see.
Yeah, it's sort of like in a normal, well, not, I won't say normal, in a Marine tank TvZ. Around this time during the game, you'll see a lot of multi-pronged drops. You substitute Marine drops for Banshees in this situation.
Yep.
And just use them basically the same way. And not only that, but against a Roach Infestor style Zerg response that Yun's going for, they force a response. Like, they force Yun to stretch his army out a little bit more and build something to deal with those. Or alternatively, he just throw all his roaches into 20 tanks. That is when Mech feels real strong. That was
a huge Boxer moment. I saw that column of tanks just moving down, and you know that picture of Boxer with his that is mini tank. Have you seen that?
Yeah, his mini tanks. Yes.
Hang on, I'll find the picture for those of you on stream who haven't seen it before. This is.
Well, while you're doing that, a couple things just to note for anyone who's keeping track. Excuse me. DheOgnis was on 5 factories up to his 4th base. Just if you're interested in what kind of production you can sustain as a meching player, it's a lot less than you might think. That's why it's so dangerous when you lose that army.
Yeah.
You can go a little bit more once you have your board. You could probably go up to 7 if you really wanted to, but if you can get away with 5, the more the better. He's also adding extra starports, which is very important, very late game TvZ, because you have to be able to very rapidly put out Vikings.
Battle cruisers.
You can even throw in, yeah, you can throw battle cruisers. To be honest, you can throw a couple of those in. They can be really dangerous if the Zerg isn't prepared.
Yeah.
And another thing he did, and he has done in both games, is as he gets his 3rd and 4th base, he's just building a shitload of command centers.
Yep.
And that is pretty important because you want to be using your SCVs to repair your mech army, and you want to put yourself in a situation where you'll never lose that mech army. That's kind of what you're going for when you're going for mech. You want to be able to have that unkillable force around the map. So you want to be able to put as much of your supply into the army, so you can sacrifice your SCVs and just use. So just little things like that are what can make mech a lot stronger than just say getting a lot of tanks.
Exactly. Alright, we got around about 15 minutes or so. Still no Omerta. Scumbag.
Guess he's just gone for the night.
He's gone.
And just one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Units killed 54 to 258. Workers killed 2 to 32. A little bit one-sided.
Jeez. I think we can.
Well, let's see. There's a game where he gets all in, or maybe he's all in. It's called All In Mechs. I'm not sure. It's one or the other.
Let's do that.
Interesting. Nice short one. Only 13 minutes.
Let's do that.
All right. Hopefully, it's the Zerg player all inning him. Because I'd like to see how his does against some sort of very fast road tree. Well, against Baneling play, if you're getting Hellions, you should be safe, unless your control's bad. So.
Yep. All right.
I'm not too interested in that. Yeah, early roaches. That'd be cool.
All right. Let's see this one. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. On 3, 1, 2, 3.
All right.
Over on the right, in the red, we've got a Toddman. Toddman? Toddman? I don't know.
It's Todd.
It's Todd, man. Come on. And over on the left side of Shakuris, we've got Quantic TheOgnis, who we reckon should be in Korea.
I think so. He's top 25 masters in Korea, which is pretty damn good.
That's pretty ridiculous. Yep.
We just watched him beat an ST.
That's true.
We just watched him beat Yun.
That's true.
He just beat Thorzane in NASTL earlier today, I think.
Apparently, he's pretty good.
I don't know. So yeah, I'd love to see him in Korea. That'd be awesome. I guess, and if any of those viewers out there are Zerg players, if you're wondering what to do against a meching player, I don't know, Duck, do you have any advice? I could give a few things, but no, you're not a Zerg guy.
Yeah, I'm not a Zerg guy. I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna be the random viewer who's in Bronze League and gonna question it. I would say a little bit more scouting, just to see if you can actually identify it. In that previous game and in the one against Nesty, both of those players, I hate to say it, both of those players didn't really scout that much. We saw, like, I think one Overseer went through into Ognis's base with Hyun, and I don't even know, like, apart from scouting with the initial lings, how much Nesty saw. So perhaps identifying what was there, and then going from there, I don't know, trying to get to Broodlords pretty quickly, I would assume.
Yeah, that's one way to do it. Well, coming from the Zerg perspective, if you see more than 4 Hellions, or you see a Banshee at any point, it's probably safe to assume the guy's going mech. Just the way the metagame is these days. But as far as ways to deal with it, a heavy roach mid-game can actually be very dangerous as long as you're mobile with it. You sort of treat it like you would stalkers against a meching Terran player. You want to be all over the map, you want to be poking and prodding at his expansions, not letting him move out. Because mech can be very tempo dependent. You want to be able to apply pressure at certain key moments of the game, and if you can keep the Terran player in his own base, he'll get into a lot of trouble. And that's one thing Chef does really well against mech, is I've seen him beat, I think it was Major, really handily on, I want to say, Antigua, by just going for relatively fast roach drops off 2 or 3 bases. I think it was 3 bases. And if you can get ahead in that kind of situation where you're just doing a lot of multi-prong stuff, it's almost impossible for the Terran player to catch up. So that's one way to deal with it. Another way, like you said, quick Broodlords really force the Terran player to overbalance his army one way or the other. If you can force the Terran player to build a lot of different things, nothing he has is going to be particularly strong.
Yep.
So that's why, like, a lot of mutas can be good. If he doesn't build enough Thors, he's in trouble. If he builds too many Thors, then he's in trouble because he doesn't have enough tanks. And we sort of saw that in that Hyun game. He overbuilt Thors a little bit and tried to push out, and didn't have the ground army to kill all the roaches and banelings, and just lost his whole mech army.
Right.
So that is what you really want to do as against a meching Terran player, is sort of force him to spread out both physically in his army, being in different places on the map, and in his composition as well.
Fair enough. There you go. How quick is quick in terms of Broodlords in this situation? 2 base,
Well,
3 base, sort of. Obviously, it's not
well,
viable
You just
off.
don't want to do it on 2 bases.
Yeah, like it's obviously not viable off 2 bases realistically, because you're not going to have anything else on the ground. So
you can get a hive done by 13 minutes relatively safely if you're going for like a mass Ling style, like Ling with upgrades.
yep.
Which is a little bit dangerous against mech, because if the Terran player successfully recognizes it, he can just build a shitload of Hellions, and then what's your army going to do?
Absolutely
So
nothing.
it's a risky play to do that, but if you maybe delay your hive a little bit, get some infestors, and keep your Lings alive, you could go for that. I think. So yeah, like 13 minutes would be the fastest you'd see it. A more reasonable timing for hive is 15 minutes. And that's pretty safe, doing whatever you want off 3+ bases. 15-minute hive is pretty good. And that's why you saw in that first game, DUCKVILLELOL scanned Nesty's main, saw the hive finish, or saw that the hive was going to finish around the 15-minute mark, then made that fat push off 3 bases while getting his 4th.
Yep.
To kill Nesty.
Cool.
Yeah, man.
So,
Alright, and it looks like he's going for the exact same build again here, which is awesome to see. I like to see how it works in a bunch of different situations. What is the Zerg player? The Zerg player has a Roach Warren and a Baneling.
Yeah.
Which is
he's really serious about doing some sort of big attack at some point. Looks as if he's got a bunch of roaches out now, which is obviously going to help with that, dealing with the Hellions. And maybe busting down the wall if you can get across there in time. But yeah.
And this is the kind of roach timing that we were talking about earlier that can be really dangerous against a meching player, because a meching player in this situation would be like just getting his first tank out, and that's just not going to do it against that many roaches.
Yeah.
But Cloaked Hellion, that might do. Or I'm sorry, a Cloaked Hellion, a Cloaked Hellion. Cloaked Banshee might be able to do it.
That's called a DT, Wiggin. Sorry, I hate to tell you, that's called a DT.
Didn't Pain User get into it within controller with that kind of thing?
Here come the
But,
Banelings.
yeah, so now Toddman is in trouble, but he can still slam some Banelings.
Oh,
that
wow.
name.
Then the Banelings get inside and do absolutely nothing, and now we've got Hellions sitting on the ramp. They're being sort of protected there, but the Roach is still, of course, able to do a lot of damage. Now, as you mentioned in the previous games, this is where your Hellion is the thing that you... your Banshee is the thing you want. Now he's got two, so he's going to be fine to take care of all of these roaches, and then effectively it'll all be stopped. So
yeah, and he did take a decent amount of damage there, but it wasn't quite enough. If you look at the worker count, he's still in pretty good shape.
So he lost 9. Just think about that. He lost 9. Imagine if that hadn't have come through. He'd be on 50 SCVs to a Zerg with 43. Obviously, part of the all-in is that you don't get as many SCVs, drones out, but still.
Right, and the Zerg player really committed to that. Even though it was a little bit late, he really committed to that all-in. But since he's a Zerg player, he can just build like 20 drones. He's not really an all-in anymore. But he is in a world of hurt. His third just got cancelled, which kind of surprises me a little bit. I think Toddman would have wanted to contest that, because since that third got cancelled, he's almost out of the game. He's in a really bad situation. If that third had been able to, if he'd been able to defend that third with those lings and maybe a couple more queens with some creep spread down to there, he could have really turned this one around. But yeah, losing that third, he's basically saying that he has to all-in on 2 bases.
Yep. I like the exploitation of the positioning of the spores there. Obviously, you can't go through the bottom side, and so he went up through the top, and now he's just taking out drones, and obviously that queen as well that was at the top, where there's no protection there. So this obviously forces Toddman to either get some more spores or bring a queen down, which it looks like he's doing now. But the queen doesn't last too long, and yeah, it's effectively over from there. We've got Ognis on 85, supply to 57, so he's just going to go to town on the rest of the things in the base now, because Aspire, while just about to complete, is probably not going to help in this situation too much.
No, he's going to be able to get some mutas out, and if he really wanted to, maybe hang in this game a little bit longer.
Yeah.
But these mutas have just been worth their weight in gold. I mean, see, 20 kills on one, almost 10 on the other, killed countless queens, canceled a third base. Not much more you could ask for some Banshees. And some desperation lings going across the map and getting cleaned up by Hellions.
Destroyed by those Hellions. And now the third base is up, and you know, if you lose from this sort of position, they're terrible.
And again, he's going for those Thors directly after as the first units out of those tech lab factories, so he'll be safe even against this 2-base muta timing. And if I were a betting man, I would say that Toddman will get his mutas over to DUCKVILLELOL base, see the Thors, and exit properly.
Or just see the planetary fortress that's there with a couple of turrets, and you know, a two base Zerg against the 3-base Terran, and the Terran's just, you know, destroying me on worker count as well. Worker's currently sitting at 64 to 39 when that game finished. So yeah. So that was that's how you deal with that all in. Obviously, that's the safe facet of this particular build, is that you've got those Banshees to help out. When the roaches come along, he did lose a few. He lost, as we said, he lost 9 SCVs. So it's not as if he went totally unscathed, but effectively came out of that like way on top, because of course the all in means that you're behind in the economy. So Toddman was in a lot of trouble from there.
Yep, and you know you've got a good safe build. Like a safe build doesn't necessarily mean that you won't take any damage to anything, but what it means is that they have to spend more to do less damage to you, so you'll end up ahead anyway. And that's what happens in this kind of situation.
Yeah.
Like, sure, Toddman did some damage, but it wasn't worth it for what you got out of it.
No.
It did take a little bit of slick control from DUCKVILLELOL, but it's nothing that you can't really expect yourself to be capable of.
Yeah.
Some banelings and some roaches.
Definitely. Alright. Not many people's talking in the chat. Come on, guys. But no. No Omerta today. I don't know where he was. Yeah, so we are all good. Sorry, I'm just reading something.
Sorry.
There we go. It's Judge Dredd. Judge
Hey,
Dreadlocks. Actually, that is the cleverest alias I've ever seen. Holy crap. That is Judge Dreadlock. I love that. Yeah, so that's a mech for TvZ. It's obviously a little bit more safer than... would you say it's safer than the standard version with the Hellions, or are you full on? It could...
Than a regular reactor.
Yeah, than a reactor Hellion based mech opening, like something like Goody does. Like that's what Goody does.
I think I think it definitely affords you more options, and if you're going for those Banshees, it's probably a little bit safer, especially against that kind of all-in. I'm still not sure how that would look against a slightly quicker roach pressure.
Yep.
Like 5 roaches about a minute earlier, but he might be able to get Marauders out in time for that, so that probably would be safe to that too. So yeah, I like the build a lot. It seems like it's catching people off guard, and it's pretty safe, pretty economical. You're not really, since you're not rushing for the Banshees on one base or anything like that, you're not sacrificing your own economy. So yeah, I like it. It seems pretty safe to me, and I'm gonna play a lot around with it on the ladder.
Cool.
Stealing the hell out of that.
Alright, so that will be the show for today. Thank you guys for tuning in, who tuned in live. If you're watching on my channel or in the highlights on my Twitch channel, yeah, say hello to me on Twitter. Tell me what you think about the show. You can add me at DUCKVILLELOL, or you can add Mr. Wiggin, MLG_Wiggin. You don't have to add Omerta. He's at MLG_Omerta, but don't worry about adding him today. You can add him next time if he turns up.
Jerk.
Yeah, he's a bit of a jerk. Yeah, and of course, thanks of course to Quantic TheOgnis. That's his Twitter alias as well, is at Quantic TheOgnis. And you can say hello to him, and thank you for sending him some replays. Maybe ask him what it's like to beat an ST. Yeah, so we'll be back with it next week, same time, hopefully with an additional person talking. And apparently there was just that Wiggin was a little bit quiet, so hopefully we fix that up and we'll make sure it's alright for next time. Yeah, any other shout-outs, Wiggin?
Shout out to Skidgy and Judge Dreadlocks.
Yeah.
2 friends of mine.
They're pretty awesome,
And
Judge Dreadlocks.
Shout out to TheOgnis, local Virginia Beach guy, man.
Oh yeah. Alright, and with that, we will sign out. Thank you all for coming. Catch you later.